In this video, I wanted to demonstrate how easy it can be to get started with building a chat box using Webex. Now for this video, there are going to be two primary methods that we can receive messages from the Webex Cloud whenever someone tries to send our bot a message. So one of the methods that we can use for our bot is something called Webhooks, which is what most people are probably going to be familiar with. And using this method, what we do is every time our bot spins up, it's going to reach out to the Webex Cloud, provide a callback URL, and tell the Webex Cloud that, hey, anytime you receive a chat message from me, go ahead and post it to this URL and I'll take things from there. Now that does make things easy in one aspect, but there are some challenges with that method. So for one, if we're just working in like a development or test environment, we're likely not going to have a public URL that's dedicated in an open web server to the internet, which can make receiving the messages challenging. Now we can use some tunneling thing like ngrok or something like that to spin up a tunneled web server and use that for development purposes. But even still, what we're going to end up having to do is use Flask or Fast API or something like that to manually handle all the incoming HTTP calls and do our own, validation and passing off those calls to the bot and all of that fun stuff. And for some organizations, once something like that makes it to production, they may not want to have a web service that's publicly accessible to the internet and have to manage the security around opening firewall rules and restricting IPs and all of that. One of the other issues with webhooks is that every time we spin down or spin up our bot, we have to check in with the Webex Cloud and see which webhooks are already configured and exist and potentially update them, which means you might be writing an entire script or set of functions just for webhook management. The other way that we can accomplish this is using something called Websockets. Now, Websockets do make life a little bit easier by removing some of those complexities added by webhooks. So in this case, every time our bot spins up, what we're going to do is actually just open a direct TCP WebSocket out to the Webex Cloud. And you can think of this as a direct tunnel to the Webex Cloud that is just from our code that's running the bot out to the Webex Cloud itself. And so it doesn't have to be exposed publicly to the internet. Any messages to and from the Webex Cloud are going to be traversing that direct tunnel. So there's no need to change firewalls, open up additional ports, or forward traffic to an internal host or anything like that. In some of my practice with the WebSockets and webhooks, it feels to me like WebSockets tend to be a little bit more responsive too, and my assumption is that we have that persistent TCP tunnel connection up at all times, and so for each message that's being sent and received, we're not doing the entire TCP and SSL handshakes for every single message like we would be doing with webhooks. Now with WebSockets, we also actually gain a couple of additional features, so I believe right now, the ability for your bot to mark a message as read and show the little read message status indicator at the bottom of a chat window is actually something that's only supported in WebSockets right now. There may be some other little features like that as well. Now, historically, WebSockets were only a function of the JavaScript Webex SDK, but recently it looks like someone actually developed a Python module that does the same thing with Python and actually makes the bot process super easy. So that's going to be the module that we're going to be focusing on today. So to get started, the first thing that we're going to have to do is go to developer.webex.com, and we're going to have to generate our bot config and get our API credentials. So once we're on the website, in the upper right-hand corner, we're going to go ahead and click on our user icon and head down to My Webex Apps and go ahead and click on that. Once we're here, we'll be given a couple of options for creating a new Webex app. Today, we're going to be focusing on building a bot, so we'll go ahead and just click Create a Bot. In order to get our API keys, we will have to provide a little bit of information around our bot, including a name, username, icon, and a description. Keep in mind that if you ever decide to publish your Webex bot publicly on the Webex App Hub, a lot of this information would be public, so if it's just for development, it doesn't really matter what you're putting in here, but should you decide to publish this, this is where you'd want to put a lot of that information that's going to be public-facing. So throughout this demo, we're actually going to be building a weather bot where you're going to be able to send a message to the bot and ask for the weather in your local area, and it's going to respond back with that. So we're going to go ahead and name our bot WeatherBot, and our bot username is going to be 0xWeatherBot, and it says that that name is available. Next, we can go ahead and upload an icon if we want, or we can choose one of these defaults that are provided to us. One thing to note is that the icon must be 512 by 512 exactly. So I do have an image that I've already grabbed, and we'll go ahead and upload that. And for our description, we'll just go ahead and put test weather bot. All right, and if that all looks good, we'll go ahead and click add bot down at the bottom. And after a couple of seconds, Webex will go ahead and provision our bot and will be provided with our bot access token. Now this access token is going to be our API key that we use to communicate with the Webex Cloud to send and receive messages and register our chatbot and all of that fun stuff. And so obviously this is the key that we're going to want to keep secret. Webex is only going to display it to us this one time, and once we close this page, we can never get that key again. We obviously can regenerate the token if we lose it or if it gets compromised or something like that, but this individual screen will never be shown again for this individual token. So be sure to copy your key and save it somewhere safe. So now that we have our bot API key, let's go ahead and get started with building our bot. So real quick, I brought up the GitHub page for the Webex bot module that we're going to be using. Like I said, this was created, I think, earlier this year or last year, and it does provide us with the ability to quickly and easily use Websockets when connecting out to the Webex Cloud. It does wrap some of the functionality with the existing Webex Teams SDK and some other stuff like that, and gives us a very clean and easy to use module for building bots very quickly. So let's go ahead and jump over to VS Code, and I'll bring up my Linux terminal real quick. And the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is install this module using pip install webex_bot. All right, and that installs pretty quickly. Okay, and so the other thing we're going to do before we actually start writing code is we're going to go ahead and export our Webex API key as an environmental variable. So we'll go ahead and do export Webex token and then our API key. All right, and once that's done, we can go ahead and jump over to VS Code and start working. So to begin with, I have a blank Python file that's just going to be called bot.py. And we'll go ahead and start off first by importing our Webex bot module. We'll also go ahead and import the OS module so that we can get our environment variable. Next, we will go ahead and configure our environment variable by doing os.environ and grabbing our Webex token. Then we'll go ahead and create a new instance of a Webex bot, passing our Webex token, and we use a optional parameter for approved domains. In this case, I am saying that the only people that can communicate with my bot is someone belonging to the domain 0x2142.com. Instead of domain, you could also do approved_users to lock it down to individual people if you wanted. Then once we have all that, we're actually just going to do bot.run. That's all we need to actually get our bot up and running and ready to go. So there are a couple of pre-built commands and modules within the bot that we can test to make sure that our bot is functioning as expected. So let's go ahead and start our bot. We'll bring up the terminal again real quick, and we'll go ahead and do python bot.py. And after a little bit of logging, we can see the last message there at the bottom says that WebSocket has been opened. So at this point, we should be free to go ahead and open up Webex Teams, chat with our bot, and see what happens. If we go ahead and open up Webex Teams, we can go ahead and search for our bot in the top. So I'll search for 0xweatherbot at webex.bot, and that comes up, and we'll go ahead and click the chat icon. And now we have our space, and we can see that our little bot icon shows up. And so now we can chat with our bot. So we can go ahead and start by asking for help. And this module does have the ability to automatically figure out which commands have been registered to it, and then automatically print an adaptive card with help text for each one of those commands. So by default, the bot comes pre-configured with two different commands. First is going to be the help command, which we've already used. The other one is an echo command where we can send a message to the bot and have it printed back to us. So for example, let's go ahead and type echo. And the bot provides a card with some text entry for us to put something in. So let's go ahead and put, "Hello, I'm a bot," and then click submit. And pretty quick, our weather bot responds back with the text that we provided it. So if we jump back over to our Linux terminal real quick, in the logging, we can see the individual messages that have been sent to the bot. We can also see that once we submitted that adaptive card response to the bot, we do get a dump of that JSON data back in here. So we can see that there was a callback to the bot, and it contains the message that we typed and asked the bot to echo back to us. So this output can be pretty helpful in case you need to troubleshoot something's not working right or didn't get a message or that type of thing. So in order to make our bot a little bit more exciting, let's go ahead and figure out how to add our own commands. So next what we're going to do is we will create a new Python file for every command that we want to add to the bot, just to keep the code separate for each command that's going to be run. So in this case, since our primary command is going to be checking the weather, I created a new file called weather.py. To get started, first we're going to go ahead and from the Webex bot module, we're going to import the command model. Next, we're going to go ahead and create a new class for our command. So since the purpose of this command is going to be providing the current weather by US zip code, we'll name our class weather by zip, and that's going to inherit the command model from the Webex bot. So the first function we'll do is the init. And under here, we'll do super init and we'll configure first the command keyword, which we'll go ahead and set to weather. This is going to be the keyword that is registered with the bot. Anytime the user sends a message to our bot that contains this keyword, that's how the bot knows that this is the code that we want to execute. Next, we'll also provide a help message, and we'll set that to get current weather by zip code. So anytime a user types help to the bot's going to go ahead and check through every command that's registered to it and look for this help message, and that's going to be the text that's provided back to our user. Last but not least, we also have the ability to provide an adaptive card. Now we saw this with both the help and echo commands where when we just gave the blank text, we were provided with a card response back. Now in this case, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and just set card to none, and we'll go ahead and move on. So next we'll go ahead and create a function called execute. And this is going to be the function that gets called anytime our command is requested by the user. And this is going to take two inputs, the first of which being the actual text message from the user, and the second being attachments. Now, obviously, we saw earlier with that echo command, when the card was submitted, there was a JSON payload attachment that included what that message text was that was being sent back. In this case, we don't intend on doing that, so we won't be using that. But if you were to create a bot command that uses adaptive cards and there was any type of user submission, we would get that data back through the attachments. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the message here that is going to be sent to your code is actually going to be pre-stripped from the command keyword. So what I mean by that is that if we say weather and then a zip code like 12345, when the bot receives that message, it's going to trigger this command because it knows the keyword is weather. And then the execute function is actually only going to be passed that 5-digit zip code, so the 12345, so that the weather command itself will be pre-stripped out of the message. So we can demonstrate this just to make sure that our code is working and show how it works by returning just a string of text that says got message and then returning the stripped message that we get back. And so before we test our command, we will need to go back over to the main bot file, the bot.py. And first thing that we'll need to do is we will need to import our weather command module. And so we'll just do from weather import weather by zip. And then after that, right before our bot.run, we'll go ahead and add in our new command. So we'll do bot.add command and then our weather by zip. And once we save this, we can go ahead and go back over to our Linux terminal, kill our bot real quick, restart it, and this should have our new command. So we'll open Webex Teams one more time, and we'll try to ask the bot for help. And sure enough, the weather bot does automatically pick up the new command that we had configured and shows that there's now the ability to ask the bot for weather, and it does show our help text. So as a demonstration, we'll go ahead and do weather 12345, and our bot should respond back, got the message 12345. Okay, so at this point, we have our bot running. We've created a new weather command, and we've tested it to make sure that we know that the bot is receiving that, has the command registered, and then is able to just return a message back to us. So next, let's go ahead and add the ability for our bot to actually check the weather and format that response and give it back to us. So for this aspect of the project, I'm using the weather APIs from OpenWeatherMap.org. For development purposes, they do have a free tier for their API. And so if we go to their API page real quick, we can see that they have a whole bunch of different things that we can choose from. For the purposes of this project, we're just going to go ahead and use the current weather data API. And so if we click on the API documentation on the right-hand side, we can see get current weather by zip code. And so here's what we're going to be using. So in this, we're just going to make a HTTP GET request to api.openweathermap.org/data/2.5/weather. And then we're going to provide a couple of parameters to it. First off being the zip code. The country code is optional. If it's not provided by default, it will assume US. And then we provide an app ID parameter, which is going to be our API key. Optionally as well, we can provide a language and units if we want to. With that, let's go ahead and start writing this into our bot. So go back over to VS Code, and we'll go back over to our weather.py. The first thing is I'm going to need both the requests module and the JSON module. So let's go ahead and import those. Next, I will go ahead and remove our existing return. First, we'll go ahead and start off by defining our API key from openweathermap.org. Next, because our message that's returned to our function just has the command stripped out, sometimes that means it can include extra spaces. So we'll go ahead and assign our zip code variable to message.strip to remove any additional white space. Then we'll go ahead and define our HTTP URL that we're going to be querying from. Again, that's going to be the https api.openweathermap.org with our parameters. Now in the URL, I am providing variables for zip code and our API key. You can also see that I am specifying units as imperial because I live in the United States, whereas the default is standard, or you can define metric. Next, we'll make a simple HTTP GET request using request.get and passing our URL. We'll assign that to the response variable, and then we'll create a new variable called weather, and we'll print out the JSON response from our HTTP request to that. Once we have that JSON data loaded, it's going to be as easy as just navigating through that data structure and pulling out the information we want. So first we'll go ahead and pull out the city. Then we'll go ahead and pull out a description for the weather conditions. Then we'll also pull out the current temperature, humidity, and wind speed. Last but not least, we'll create a new text response message that says in whatever city, the current temperature is whatever, with some conditions, and then printing out the wind speed and the humidity, and we'll return that response message. Seems easy enough. So let's go ahead and test our bot and see if this works. So we'll kill this bot one more time and restart. So if we go ahead and open up Webex Teams, we should be able to send a command to our bot asking for the weather in a particular zip code. So I'll go ahead and provide the zip code 44286, which is for Richfield, Ohio, and our bot should respond back with the weather. So sure enough, pretty quickly, bot responds back saying that in Richfield, it's currently 42.3 degrees with scattered clouds. Wind is just over 10.5 miles an hour. Humidity is 62%. So with that, we've spent just a couple of minutes and showed how to create a quick Webex bot using Python and Websockets. Now, obviously, this bot is pretty simplistic. It's only taking in one command and returning some static text. We're not doing any sort of adaptive cards or fancy displays or any other sort of exciting features. But my intent with this video is just to show how easy it can be to get started with building a Webex bot, and how using WebSockets for this actually makes the process a lot easier. So with that being said, I hope that you take this example and are able to go start building a Webex bot that does something that you think is exciting. And with that, I hope that this video was helpful, and thanks for watching.